Spring is fully underway and it's time to check on my worms and see how they did over the winter. Let's take a look inside this bin. I've been feeding it over the winter, just throwing in my scraps as I go. And I honestly believe that the way to look after these worm bins is with the least amount of effort possible. I don't see them as pets. Obviously I enjoy them, but they aren't pets. They are there to serve a purpose, to hopefully be a little bit environmentally friendly. So that's why you see quite a lot of large pieces of vegetables and things like that in here. But honestly, that's not a problem at all. These worms will break it down. Of course, they'll break it down quicker if I mash this all up or, blended it. But honestly, it's a lot easier just doing it this way, and I'm still having a great amount of success. So we can see this is something I put in, I think last week, a bit of celery. And if we look underneath here, loads and loads of worms. And these guys are abundant. We can see that I'm feeding mostly on this side. That's because I've already fed that side. I've left that alone. We still have a few worms here, but essentially most of the worms will be migrating over this way. And we can see that's pretty much the case. We have just tons of worms over here, and we'll have tons more once the weather warms up. But you can see loads of eggs in here as well. I did mention before I had quite a few slugs in here, and you saw that in a previous video. Still have a couple, so they haven't gone completely, but they aren't causing much of a problem in here. Of course, it's not ideal. You don't want slugs in here because you just don't want slugs anywhere near your compost that you're going to be using in your garden, because they are laying eggs and all that sort of stuff. The worms are the most abundant thing inside this bin, and that's perfect for me. So today we're going to be harvesting this compost on this side. I'm going to leave this alone. Probably going to start feeding from that side after I've harvested that, and that will allow us to again just make the switch over. The worms will then migrate over that way once they've finished eating everything that's on this side. So let's have a look at our other worm bin. This is an old sink, and again I'm doing a similar method to the other worm bin, where I'm feeding just to the one side, and this side here we can see it's been processed down. We can actually see how it's lowered down. If you look at the levels on the side here, this is dropping down because the worms are eating up everything that's inside there. So all our coffee grounds go in here, and the worms seem to love that. So we have a look in here, we can see that the worms here are also very abundant and have survived the winter just fine. We've got loads of new baby worms in there as well, and we'll have loads more as the season progresses and as things get warmer. Let's see, loads of worms here by the fresh stuff. All near the surface actually, so that means probably we can harvest quite a bit of the compost a bit lower down here. So we can see a few worms down below there. There's an egg. There's a little worm egg over there. That's about to actually hatch, but there's quite a few of those in here. Let's have a look over here. We have a few slugs again. Hate these things, but they aren't causing too much of a hassle right now. You can see on this side there aren't a lot of worms, and there are a few actually, but not a lot. This side here will be harvested, and we'll have some beautiful compost to add to my chili plants. So we've got one more worm bin to have a look at. That's my worm tower, and we'll head over there right now and have a look. Let's take a look in here. These are my original worm bins that I had before I just created my own custom ones, and they're still doing good. But honestly, the custom made worm bins that I have are doing fantastic. I wouldn't go out and spend any more money on any more of these. I mean, it's a good enough system, but honestly I prefer my bigger worm bins. They're much cheaper, and I think I get a lot more compost out of it. But these are doing great. Let me see if I can get a fork. So just to move stuff around, I've taken my gloves off now. But with this here, you can see they love cardboard. Cardboard helps keep it moist, but it also, actually they eat it. The glue that they use in the cardboard these days is stuff that is easily compostable. It's I think it's a sugar-based system, so the worms actually love eating it. But we can see there's loads of worms in here. If we look in there, looking healthy, lots of worms. They love these sort of things. Keeps it moist in here when you have these big bits of fruit or veg inside here. You can see inside there loads and loads of worms. During the cold months, obviously worms aren't as productive, but they still are producing, they're still doing their thing. But you'll find that you're not going to produce as much compost during those winter months. So let's close that up. We're going to need to harvest as much of this as we can. I'll leave a link up above. You can see how I harvest my compost. So that's a quick look at my 3 worm bins. They look like they're doing very well. They survived the winter just fine. I was a little bit worried about them because I've been keeping my worm bins actually inside the garage until this year. This year I put them outside, as you can see, and they did just fine. I didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to insulate or anything. They just looked after themselves, really. Through the winter I did throw in my green scraps and a lot of coffee grounds and things like that. Some cardboard and some paper as well. But that's about it, really. They seem to have looked after themselves just fine. Doubled in population, it looks like. There's quite a lot of worms there, a lot of eggs. I'm looking forward to see how they get on in the spring and the summer. But I'm happy with how they're doing at the moment. And, you know, it just goes to show you don't really need to put in a ton of effort when looking after worms like this. Just, you know, do what you need to do. Don't go overboard. If you want to go and put your food in a blender before you stick it into the worm bin, or you want to go freeze it, and you know, there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can do that, go for it, but you know, you really don't need to. I have enough things I need to do on a daily basis, enough chores in the garden. I don't have time to be doing all that. So I believe the worms are there to perform a function. They're there to create some awesome compost. Just make sure you look after them and they'll look after you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll keep you updated through the season. We'll see how they get on in the spring and the summer. And until then, thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now.
Old man, they're coming after